Let's go to, we've got Dewitt in Seattle. You are on with Nick Fish, Debbie Goddard, and Matt Dillahunty, and evidently you called in to let us know that Jesus is alive and that's the truth.
Oh, I just kind of wanted to ask you in the sense that since, you know, it's Easter today, and I just wanted to show you some evidence, or not evidence, but just like claims that historians have made of the validity of Jesus being real, and then also dying, and then coming back, and then just like evidence of that.
So if it's not evidence, if it's just a bunch of claims, why would we care?
In the sense that, like, well, why would you agree that Jesus was someone that did exist?
I have no problem with that notion, but I don't think that there's necessarily a knockdown solid case that Jesus existed.
Okay, but like obviously you don't think that he actually was a god or anything like that, or he ever like the eyewitness accounts of, you know, people seeing him and performing miracles, and the fact that he rose from the dead, eyewitness accounts of that happening after all that. I know it's not like 100% fact, but just would you just dismiss historians and New Testament scholars looking at it and just saying that there is something here?
I'd say fact and eyewitness are both doing a lot of heavy lifting in what you just said.
Yeah, but to say there's something here, I agree. There's something there. Yeah. There are stories there.
But it's kind of from like historians kind of saying that this actually, there is a good chance that this actually did happen. Like,
no, so that's not the way it works to assess history. All historians can do is tell us, hey, we have really good evidence that a whole bunch of people believed this to be the case. Without evidence that it is the case, you're still just talking about, yeah, there's a bunch of people who believed it. And that's wholly unsurprising. One of the most popular religious movements ever had people who believed it. But there are people who genuinely believe that Elvis didn't die. And historians will tell you, yep, there's a bunch of people who are saying that Elvis didn't die and Elvis was spotted here and Elvis was spotted there. That doesn't mean that the underlying story is true.
Okay. But so like you said, Jesus Christ could be real, right? He could be someone that did exist.
Well,
or do you think that?
Yeah, well, the thing I was going to say is we know that people like the people who founded the Mormon religion existed. They were real people. We know that Joseph Smith and all of them and Brigham Young existed. It doesn't have anything to do with the fact that they were just making shit up and willfully misreading and misinterpreting and mistranslating words on fake scrolls. I mean, there are millions of people who are Mormons and they believe it wholeheartedly. And there were people who corroborated the beliefs of the Mormons who were around at the founding of the Mormon Church. But the fact is that, like, the New York Times was publishing when the Mormon Church was founded, right? And people still believe these things. There were people who, there are reports of the fraud that was going on by the founders of that religion, but it doesn't dissuade people from believing it. The fact that people believe it, as Matt said, isn't what makes it true or not. Is it true? The eyewitness, as you say, testimony in this case isn't actually eyewitness testimony. It's oral tradition that was passed down for a few hundred years and then written down.
Yeah. What do you think is eyewitness, by the way?
I'm just saying what historians have said is that there were eyewitness accounts of people seeing Jesus after he had died. And then I actually haven't looked deep into it. I'm just going with what the historians have said.
Okay. I no longer want to hear the word historian because here, if we look at the New Testament, I don't care about New Testament scholars either, because I can look directly at the New Testament. And so if you just look at the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, we have no idea who wrote those. They aren't eyewitness accounts, and they tell stories about eyewitness accounts. And there's no external sources that confirm any sort of eyewitness accounts. So the best thing historians can do is look at the New Testament and say, yep, this has the hallmarks of people who are telling the stories second, third hand from people who claim to be eyewitnesses. But that would be fine if it was about a government decision, a battle, something that is trivial. When you start saying, hey, here's somebody who claimed to be God, performed miracles, died, and was resurrected, and we have eyewitnesses. Unfortunately, we have no accounts from those eyewitnesses. We only have secondary and tertiary accounts from people who supposedly talk to these people. How can that ever be enough to reasonably confirm that this is a true story?
To be honest, I'm really not sure. I might have to look more into that.
Cool. Go do that, and by all means, call us back. We appreciate it, and you know, we don't necessarily have all the answers either. It's just my position, and I don't know. By the way, Debbie, Nick, either one of you mythicists?
No.
Okay. So you have three people here who aren't mythicists. None of us are necessarily convinced that Jesus did not exist. There are atheists. You can think of, you know, Stephen Carrier, David Fitzgerald, my good friend Frank, who do actually hold those views. I've moderated a debate on mythicism before. I think all of us would be fine with the notion that, yeah, okay, we're telling stories about a person, and there may actually be a real person there, but that doesn't have any bearing on whether or not the stories told about them are real. It's like, as a magician, and Debbie can vouch for this as well, when somebody sees a magician do a trick, the stories they tell after the trick are better than what that guy or girl could have done in the first place. And it's like, you know, it's like a fishtail, it grows. Oh yeah, well, my savior didn't just, like, you know, die of pneumonia and was resurrected. He was actually hung on a cross and with a crown of thorns and stabbed with a spear, and, you know,
upside down.
Yeah, that would be cool.